Jared Waters, man. What's happening? How are you?
My dog, man.
Dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It means a lot to have you on, dude.
I love what you've done with the place. Love what you've done with the place.
You know, this bookstore, honestly, I owe them so much. They do the show that we do here. They let me do the podcast. Jared, before we get started, I want to just quickly, my favorite thing about you is once you're a headliner here at the show, you bring the house down every time you come here, which is awesome. And the other thing I want to say, too, is we met a few years ago, I think. I was at Broadway Comedy Club, and they were kind enough. They let me do a few spots, and you were the headliner, and you crushed. And I remember I was very nervous and timid. I just went over to say hi and good set. Dude, you looked me like right in the eye. You asked questions about me, and then I saw you months later, and I was like, there's no way this guy remembers me. And you freaking did, man. That meant so much to me as like a new comic, dude. Thank you so much.
Dog, I think everybody, you got to be welcoming, man. You got to be welcome. I'm from a military family.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Military family. My dad served in the military 25 years.
Wow.
So he always taught us how to walk in a room and speak to people. And just being a military brat, moving around. I know what it's like being a young comic. I know what it's like. You're in that green room nervous. Dude. And I wish somebody would introduce themselves to me or not make us feel weird. I'm not into that like hazing stuff. That's not my steez. No. So I want everybody, if they're your first time meeting me, at least he made me feel welcome.
Yeah, dude, and absolutely you did. And I just remember, it was the fact too that like you remembered me, and like we connected on a few things, especially travel. I remember was I think you had just gotten back from Egypt. I think was the big trip. Yeah, which was awesome. I want to hear more about like growing up from a military family. You're from Tampa originally, right?
So I'm from Tampa by the way of North Carolina, Netherlands, and Japan, right?
Wow. Oh my God.
We've lived like my dad bounced around the whole world, but Tampa's like the place where I call home. That's where my mother lives and everybody else, where I pretty much started comedy there. And all my friends are scattered around the world. So my dad, he's from North Carolina, and when he met my mom in college and he joined the military, he became an officer. And then like every 3 years we moved. So we lived in Missouri, then we went to Virginia, then we went back to North Carolina, then we went to Japan, and then every time we go overseas, we just kept going back to Florida. That was our Florida. And then I remember just being in Japan and just, it's hard being the new kid all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Being the new kid, and some people are like, Southern people talk trash. That's what they do. Southern people, wherever you go, we talk, my cousins talk trash. But I remember just being in school, I was like, man, I'm tired of being the new kid. So I was always fighting a lot. Because I'm just like, we're not going to go over this again of just like making fun of me, trying to tease me. And I only had my brother. My little sisters were like super young, so they didn't go to school with us. So I remember just being every New Year. But when we got to Japan, everybody was military brats.
Really? Okay.
So we all were just, it's like finally being at like Professor Charles Xavier's mansion where everybody's a mutant. Everybody understands what you're going through.
Yeah.
Like my buddy's mom is deployed for a year, so we're supporting him because we know what that's like. Dude, I remember being in school. My dad was deployed for a year, and this teacher's like, what is going on with you? I was like, oh, my dad is at war right now. What are you talking about? Maybe you need to see the principal. Maybe my dad is gone. My dad was gone for like a year. I remember I was making like videos, cassette tapes, to send them to him when he was in Kuwait for a year. And he did a whole year. He didn't come back in the middle of the year. He did a whole year. My mom was with just 4 kids. And I remember my mom was so tired of us. I remember she made this giant dinner for us, and we had a Sunday dinner. And me and my brothers and sisters are clumsy, so my sister Candace knocks over the Kool-Aid all over the table, and then I spilled the macaroni. And I remember my mother just losing it, and she went to the bed, slammed the door, and then and I remember like licking the table, trying to lick the Kool-Aid off. And I remember after that, I was like, man, my mom needs help, man. It's hard raising kids when you got like a military family. So when we finally got to Japan, it was like, then I met all, like, everyone whose parents understood. Mm-hmm. So we met all these people, and then we started traveling, so we started understanding the world. So that was like where I met like a lot of my like, that Netherlands and Japan is where I met like all of my childhood like friends that I've seen around.
Wow, oh my God. So now, and how old were you like throughout? So when you went to the Netherlands and Japan, like how old are you at this point?
When I was in Japan, I left at 12.
Wow.
I left at 12 and I left when I was 15. And then from 15 to 18, I was in the Netherlands.
Gotcha. Oh my God. And so, I mean, that image of you sending the videos to your dad is like it's like heart-wrenching to me. Would he send videos?
I gotta find these tapes.
I know.
I was like 10, but I remember it was like we played my mom played a piano song. My sister would do. Everyone did like a set, Everyone would do something. The camera would be there.
Oh.
We would look into the camera and say, I think I did try to make impressions and stuff and send it to him.
Wow.
And he would send us tapes of like what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like he was like, had like a church service out there, or he'd be on the base showing us like all the sand stuff. So I remember that vividly. My dad being gone for a year.
Yeah. Oh my God. And so, I mean, on the day-to-day too, I imagine that must have been very hard. Were you close with your dad growing up?
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad, because when my mom was at home, dog, she didn't play no games with us.
I'm
so
sure,
as soon as it hit 5 o'clock, like, Dad's home. Oh my God, thank you, Jesus, he's home. My mom, to this day, my mom does. That's what I think I worked on. My mom does not like seeing a man not working. I remember we'd be home from school like as teenagers, and we don't have work because it's school.
Right.
Maybe 14, and my dad would leave to work quietly. He would put his boots on and leave. When my mom left, she would turn on all the lights and be all like, before y'all when I get back to this house, wash the walls, wash the clothes. I want you to clean the dishes. I was like, we can't get all this done by 5 o'clock. Don't y'all sit up in this house and do nothing. I want you to scrub the tub with a toothbrush. And I realized, I was like, oh, they're just going to work. So, like, with her having 4 kids, especially, like, teenagers, like, young teens. We weren't even teens yet.
Sure.
We were preteens, so we were just needy people. So, when we got to Japan, it was such of a community. My parents would leave and have vacations, and some of her friends would watch us.
Wow.
So, like, the base was more like a safe haven where, like, everybody knew each other.
Yeah.
All the families knew each other, which was a hard thing because everybody was snitching on each other every time you did something. Oh, I saw your son over there. Yeah, I saw him at a club. A little snitch.
That must have been hard to leave, right? Because you said you left around 15.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was happy to leave because sometimes I was just getting tired of it because I was ready for the new adventure.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of my friends in Japan, they've been there their whole lives. I mean, they've been there. Some of them were like, their dads worked contract jobs, so they were there for like 15 years. I was like, I want to see a new country. I was just ready to the point where I just got used to every 3 years, let's get out of here. Then when I finally got out of there, I was like, boom. But I was in Japan because I was 12, and my brother was 13, so they let all the teenagers volunteer at the NFL games. So back in the day, they would do NFL Japan, where all the Super Bowl winners would come to Japan and play an exhibition game in Tokyo.
That's so cool.
So I couldn't go because I was too young, but my brother got Warren Sapp to autograph some gloves for me. And it was Warren Sapp. It was like the whole Tampa Bay Bucks. Other than that, then after that, I was like a Bucks fan after that.
Yeah, no, I'm
my
sure
buddy,
you
him and
have to
Shamar
be.
did that. But all of my buddies now, they're all like from Japan throughout life. But when I got to the Netherlands, there was no Air Force base. There was a lot of them, but we were like literally living with Dutch people.
Wow.
So my neighbors were Dutch, and then we just out there, and we were just more ingrained into the culture.
That's so, and I guess like, what was that culture difference, right? Going from Japan to Netherlands, did it feel like less of a community in the Netherlands because you were like living amongst the people?
It was a community, but I was older. You know, since I was older, I was more like partying. So I got to see like, you know, I got to see like people who were my age just happened to be Dutch.
Yeah.
Like my prom date was this Moroccan who was 20 years old. I was like 16, and she was beautiful. And everybody's like, "How'd you meet her?" I was like, "Off base. I was in the wild like everybody else." So the thing about like Europe specifically, my grandfather told me this, and this old Dutch dude told me this. During war, all these Americans stayed out there and had all these kids. So all these war babies were out there. All these beautiful, swirly, mixed people were out there.
Sure.
So we met all these girls, and I was like, your dad's from Mississippi? Yeah, my dad's from Mississippi. I was like, where does you live? Back in Mississippi. But they spoke English, and they would come out to visit her dad. So my friend Tanya and all of them, they spoke Dutch and English. So they were like our wingman. So we would all party. The drinking age was 16.
Okay, yeah.
Super young. So
Nice.
Everything I did before I got to America, I did it all in Europe.
Wow.
Phone parties, everything else. It was probably like the wildest times. So when I got to college, I was pretty tame compared to everybody else.
Well, I was going to say, like, did you feel like you'd gotten it out of your system at that point, or were you still going?
But when I got to college, I was like, what? It's over? It's 2 a.m. Where's the next spot? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm just a party until 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you were a pro at that point. Just
yeah.
like, yeah.
We were partying really hard out there, and it was just... Since our parents were so used to it worked in our favor because they were so used to Japan being this safe haven because everybody lived on the base. So when we got off the base in the Netherlands, they didn't really worry because it was military people. We knew we were going to be together. You know, we're with somebody. Yeah. We weren't just out there by ourselves.
Wow.
But Japan, I would go out and party by myself because everybody was snitches. I would go there, and the thing was in Japan, every day the train stops at I think it's 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the. It starts at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I forgot when the train stops at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And if you don't catch the next train, it's at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So people are just passed out on the train station. And there was no Ubers back then.
Right. So
everyone be like, "Yo, time to go." And if you miss that last train, you would just be stuck in Roppongi, party until 5 o'clock. Party until 5 o'clock. Party until 5 o'clock in the morning. But when I went as an adult, that's when I realized, like, yo, man, this world is huge. Yeah. Like, I remember 9/11. I was in Japan when 9/11 hit and seeing how it affected everybody. Wow. Like, our Air Force base closed down. Everyone was driving around with these military Humvees. And that's when I remember this dude named Danny Sachs gave me that System of a Down CD. I remember because the 9/11 hit, and that was the only CD we had, was that and the Jay-Z CD. And all these black dudes, we burned System of a Down, and we were just rocking out the System of a Down because we were locked in our houses. I was like, Father in my hand, I come in my spirit. Yeah, I love that album, Toxicity.
It's just a little bit like, because from my perspective, right, this sounds incredible just because I am someone, I grew up not too far from here. I grew up on Long Island. And I get so anxious when I travel too. I'm like, so to be like embedded in all these different environments from when you're so young to now. Right. I understand now why you love travel so much. Just because like, I feel like you just seem like someone that always has to be moving, right? Like just always, which is like the perfect comedy thing too. Because
I like having a home base.
Yes.
New York is the home base.
Yeah.
But like my dad would just make it a business too. I think he realized when we got like 16, we started understanding like how privileged we were to travel the world.
Sure.
So then we started doing like vacations.
Okay.
Like we always did like family vacations, but when we went to Florida, I know he was just pissed because he's like, I spent all this money to go to Disney World. Y'all don't want to do nothing except sit in the hotel. But we were just like 14, so we were big into PlayStation. So we're just playing games the whole time. And I understand now that, he spent a lot of money to take us on this family vacation. We're like, it's hot. I don't want to be out here. It's hot. Let's hang out. Wow. So I remember he took us in the Netherlands. He goes, we're going to Morocco for a family vacation. And that was the first time I ever seen my dad scared before. I didn't know my dad was scared of camels. I never knew that.
Are you scared of camels?
We all got on a camel ride, and he goes, I'm not getting on a camel. I was like, come on, just get on the camel. And the camel started bucking like this. He goes, hey, get me down. He's like, he's a lieutenant colonel. Get me off this stupid camel. And the guy's like, it is okay. It's okay. Come on. And he's like, get me off this camel. And we're like, so we're recording it. And he goes, stop filming me. So me and my brother recorded my dad. I'm like, stop filming me. Put that stupid camera away. And he's so militant. So we're in Morocco, and we get to the airport early, and my brother, he read the sign wrong, and he goes, some city. He goes, oh, the plane leaves in 20 minutes. But it's military time, so my brother read it wrong. So my dad goes, everybody run to the plane.
Oh, my
God. All these black people running, 6 of us running. And my dad's like, go back, go get your mother. I'll go get it. and then everybody stops. And I was like, man, we got 6 hours until the plane leaves. He goes, oh, I was just making sure everybody's ready. That's what I was doing. So he was always, I think as I got older, he got funnier. I think he was the one that got me like into like comedy.
Really?
Because we traveled a lot, so we always would have family time watching these Sanford and Son DVDs, and he would just teach me about like, I was like, who's Red Fox? Red Fox is a stand-up comedian. I was like, what is that? And he would like show me video. And I was like, oh, okay. So I would download all like Napster. I wrecked the computer, family computer, downloading that stuff. But I just realized my parents, since they grew up in the South, they didn't understand what me and my brother were going through because we're just international people.
Right.
Like we've seen the world. Like there are things that I know that you didn't know.
Do you have an example? Like,
well, meaning like my dad would be like, my dad so much was southern alpha male. He'd walk in the house like family meeting, and he'd have like a paper, some envelope that the Dutch people sent in the mail, and goes, there's been a lot of robberies in this neighborhood. So we all need to lock the door, make sure we keep this family together because there's been break-ins everywhere. It says right here, robbery. And my mom goes, that ain't what it says. So we walk to our neighbor, and the neighbor goes, this is a protest for the for the highway that they're trying to start. So there's a sense of like control. Like my dad controlled the family because he raised like Southern values, respect women, everything else. But this thing is just like, I've dated almost every race. Mm-hmm. I've seen the world. Like you're from a small town where it's black, white, Mexican. I'm from international New Zealand, everything else. So I'm used to like meeting different people and understanding people and understanding like the war. Like I never understood the Iraq war until I'm in an international school, And this Canadian dude goes, watch this documentary. Because I'm like, George Bush is the George Bush. And then I met the Moroccan chick I told you about. She told me about, like, I was like, man, I never knew how in America we just didn't understand people who were not like us.
Sure.
I remember my sister had a little Saudi Arabian friend, and they would let us bring her to church. And my mom was, wait, she's not going to no mosque. But she came to church, and her parents was to let her stay with us. And I remember her mom one time, I know I wasn't supposed to see it, but her mom didn't know I was there. She took down her hijab, and her hair went all the way to the floor. And she explained to me, like, I'm Arab. I have a family. We're not terrorists. And I was like, wow. It was just so conditionally being like this pro-right, everything else. So it made me understand people and understand, like, how America's viewed.
Yeah.
Like, so me and my lady went to Cuba, and I was like, let's go listen to what Fidel has to say. And we sat in his museum. I was like, oh, wow. In his mind, he did win. he's the only country that stood up to America, and like nothing.
Yeah, no.
Like if it wasn't for the embargo, we don't know how it would have ended.
Right.
So I've always been the person, like, now since I travel, let me hear everybody's perspective.
Was there a time? I mean, it's just when I'm hearing this, it's sad because I think a lot of people like go through life and they never get there, right?
Yeah.
They just kind of stay in that bubble that they're brought up in, especially in this country. Was there ever a time where you took this kind of perspective and you kind of taught your dad something, or maybe something that he didn't see until you kind of opened his eyes to it?
I think more like cultures, we learn more about different things, like traveling. So my dad so I was like, we went to Peru, and I would show my dad this stuff, and my dad like, wow, yeah, I ain't going there. But it was just, he's more, I can tell as my dad gets older, he's proud of what me and my brothers and sisters have accomplished, you know?
Yeah.
I can tell the way he's on the phone. Like, my brother, Emmanuel, he's got the bourbon company. He's doing good. Jared, stand-up comedian in New York City. Yeah. So I can tell now
great.
he'll, like, show the videos. Did that really happen? That's because they're how do I say this? They're learning about me because since they were so religious, and that's not a bad thing, but they grew us in strict religious values, we had to be sneaky.
Right.
So all of my friends, we were sneaking away from military operatives. These weren't easy things to do. So we had to make sure our stories were straight. We had to make sure we did everything else. So my dad will be wondering, like, you really did this in Japan? I was like, yeah, I did that. How did you do it?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they're learning about me through my stand-up. Wow. Because I'm a whole lot smarter because y'all are in a small town in North Carolina. I said, but I grew up in Tokyo. So I know how to maneuver through the trains. I know how to get to Germany. My mom called me one time and goes, Jared, you better bring your black butt home in 2 hours. And I was like, I'm in Belgium. I can't get home in 2 hours. I'm gone. So they're learning more about, like, traveling through me. Like, they put the spark in all of our system.
Wow.
So, like, my brother and me are more like, my sisters they like more like resort type of people. They like to travel, but they like the resort aspect.
Sure.
But I like getting lost in a country.
Yeah.
I like getting lost and finding my way around. And I realize if you're not looking for trouble, trouble don't find you.
Yeah.
You know, you got to try to blend in. But it's hard for Americans to blend in because I was in Egypt and this dude goes, you're a black? I said, no, I'm not American. No, I'm Canadian. He goes, no, black Americans, they dance. And I was like, what? He goes, they're Americans dance. They always dance. And I was like, trust me, you won't see me dancing. And within 6 hours, we're on this boat ride. It's like, hello, and I'm sitting there. And I was like, freak, he's right. And then I look, and he looks like this. American, always dance. And I was like, freak, he's right. So it's just like, I feel like you got to be ambassador. My mom used to always tell me, don't shame the name. Right? Your last name is Waters, don't shame it. So I want everyone to have a good encounter of me, encounter of my people. And I realize that people are so interested in us, and I'm interested in them.
Yeah, that was how I felt when I first met you. You had a genuine interest in, like, who I was, and which is, like, honestly, and through no fault of any other comedians in the scene, I get people are busy. Like, you know, it just doesn't happen all the time, unfortunately.
Well, I want to know when I find out where people are from, I get their humor.
Yes,
Long Island people have dark humor.
Yeah.
Long Island people, y'all grew up with houses. Y'all grew up with, like, garages. So you're more structured than people.
That's super
y'all
interesting.
Kind of like Southern people a little bit. Y'all
Yeah.
talk trash. Y'all go to Walmart. There's deers out there. So my Matthew, he's from Long Island. So, like, all that, when I came to New York City, like, I didn't know where Long Island was until I met Brian McKenna. He goes, hey, he said it in a nice way. He goes, you're funny and you're clean and you're diverse. I was like, I knew he was saying black.
Yeah.
And he goes, you ever been to Long Island? I said, is it in New York? He goes, yeah. I was like, I'll go. Sign me up. So I go to Governor's Comedy Club, and I auditioned there, and I just kept going to Governor's all the while.
Oh, wow, you're kidding.
That's
Okay,
where
great.
I met all Nick Tillelli. That's where I met Matthew
yeah.
Arvalo. I met all the Long Island comedy scene. I was in it for like
awesome,
a year and a half. I was out there, and I met all of them.
So take us through to your journey like into comedy as well. So where'd you go to college? You mentioned
I went to college, East Carolina University.
Okay, East
So
College.
that's where I was 17 when I went to college. So I started stand up there. I was doing like hosting step shows and hosting everything
cool.
else. And there was a comedy group on campus, so I would join that one. And then my roommate, he was from my suite mate, he's from Brooklyn, and he goes, "Yo, Jared, if you're trying to do stand up, come to New York with me." And I was like 19. I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Come for Thanksgiving." I said, "All right." So we drove up to New York, and he goes, "I'm gonna get you a show." So his sister knew John Lasser.
Okay.
And she goes, "I got you a show." I was like, "What?" Yeah. So in my mind, I'm thinking it's going to be this great auditorium. I'm thinking a theater. I'm practicing walking the microphone like, "What's up, New York City?" And I remember the host brought me up. He goes, "This guy's been killing it all over college campuses. He's on tour." Start clapping. I was like, "Who the freak is he talking about? On campus?" Jerry Water. Jerry Water. I went up there. I didn't bomb. I did okay.
Sure.
But I was just super nervous, young. And I remember watching the whole show, and that's the first time in my life I didn't feel funny because everybody was funny. Everybody, every woman, everybody was a killer.
Yeah.
And I remember John Lasser at the end of the night goes, he was sad about something about stand up for diversity or whatever he did. And he goes, "You know, I didn't feel like doing the show today, but I did it, man. And y'all came out." And then he goes, "To that kid that's 18 or 19 wearing that soccer shirt, keep doing it, kid. Trust me, keep getting up every night. I promise it'll change."
That's so cool.
And I remember I left him like a voicemail. I had like minutes on my phone. I had like a razor phone. I was like, "Hey man, I just want to say thank you for everything." And he's like, "Yeah, one." And they close the phone. He like close the phone. But to this day, like every time I do stand up and I see him walking down the street, I was like, "Yo man, I freaking did it. I'm here."
Wow.
I remember you were the first.
Does he remember it or no?
Sometimes comics get weird when they get praise and stuff. But I was the first person when I was 19 years old. And that's when I knew that taste in my mouth of knowing that, okay, these are where the greats are.
Yeah.
Everybody's good here.
Yeah.
Right? But when my family went down for vacation, we went down to Florida and we were went down to visit my dad. He was in Tampa when he got stationed at Tampa. And we were in Orlando and we went to Disney World, and a guy named Dean Napolitano goes, "There's only 8 people in the crowd, and my family's 6 of them." It was one of those, those dinners where there's like who did it dinner, and at the end there's comedy afterwards. It was one of those. So it was only 8 of us. 6 of my family was there.
Sure.
And my dad goes, "Let's stay because Jared's a comedian. We'll stay for him."
Oh, that's
great.
great.
And he killed for an hour and a half with just my family and 2 other people. Then since we were laughing so hard, other people came in. And then he goes, "What do you do?" He goes, "The Colonel." So he kept making fun of my dad. My dad was laughing. And he goes, "Tell that kid Jared, he's going to keep you guys laughing forever." And after the show, he gave me his email address, and he would email me. So I knew the greats were in New York, but I knew I had to get back to Florida because something about these, like they were doing shows with 8 people. They were doing shows and still killing. So I was like, I got to get. So as soon as I finished college, I'm just going right back down to Orlando, go back to Tampa because that's where all the funny people are. And then I'll move to New York later. That was my plan.
Sure. And that's eventually what happened, right?
That's what happened.
How many years did you stay in Florida?
At Disney World.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got an internship at Disney World. So I was living in Orlando. That's when I met Preacher and all those boys and Ken. And then after I finished my internship, I went back down to Tampa. And that's when I met my buddies, all of Rio, Cam, Bertrand, Jonas. But when I went to this club, Side Splitters, the general manager was managing out BT. He goes, "Listen, man, you're funny, but you gotta stop you gotta stop saying period, juice on stage. You gotta stop." So he taught me how to he taught me how to structure myself.
Sure.
Because you're a college comic. You're saying all this stuff to kids. These are adults. These people are 40 years old.
Right.
They don't want to hear about you hooking up with girls because they can't relate to that.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So I was like, oh wow. So they taught me how to be a comedian. They taught me how to callbacks and structure and stuff. So I had all this stuff because when I was in Orlando, I was doing stand up there, but I was working at night the whole time, so I couldn't really get as where I wanted to. But I kept watching all these specials and watching everything else. So I finally got the gist of storytelling and everything. Yeah. When I got down to Tampa, that's when I felt like all my boys were back in there, and that's when I would host for a comic. And the best thing about hosting for a comic is when you're down south, your job was to pick up the comic from the airport and pick up the comic and take him to his hotel. So you had 20 minutes with them in the car to ask them anything you wanted.
Yeah.
So some comics didn't want to be bothered, but some of them wanted to, like, hey, what's up, kid? How's everything else? I remember taking Bobby Kelly around. That was super cool.
Oh, my God.
Then he goes like, you want to go to the, what do you say? You want to go to the movies? I was like, I hope this guy doesn't grab me or something. So we went to the movies together.
That's awesome.
And I remember all these Tommy Johnigan telling me, like, he showed me his notebook. He goes, I write every day.
Wow.
I said, well, what do you do? He goes, I write every day. Then at the end of the week, I do this, and I see what's funny. And I was like, oh, wow. So I got all these real world experiences because at Side Splitters, before it became a big club, right now what it is now, it was for comics going up and for comics to come down. So if you're at the peak of the mountain, you'd be in a theater. But before you got up there, you will be there. So Theo Von, before he blew up, he was like coming down a little bit where he kind of wasn't really happy about being in Tampa, and he met these two young comedians like, yo, what's it like? Oh my God, we're asking him all these questions, and he goes, man, y'all really love comedy, huh? And I was like, yeah. It was like this. He's telling us all these stories, and I was like, dude, you're so funny. Oh my God, man, hey, are you dropping a special? He showed us his Netflix special, and I was like, wow. And I remember we had a moment, we were just like, why did you film it in Louisiana? And he looked at us like, why the frick are you kids asking us that question? But we had a good point because I was like, man, your accent is so funny. But Louisiana, everybody sounds like that.
Right.
But I remember him just seeing some comic like just at the switch of their career. And then when he turned it around, the podcast blew. I remember being in New York, going to the knitting factory, and he walked by. I was like, Theo. He said, man. I said, how you feeling? Man, I'm surviving, baby. Got my mojo back, baby. And I was like, wow. So now when comics come to Side Splitters, now it's like, it's the A-list. It's the Louis, freaking Tim Dillon. Every big comic comes to Side Splitters because in the pandemic, it just blew up.
Right. No, and
Florida was wide open.
And I've heard amazing things about Side Splitters in Tampa. You did mention the pandemic, and we talked a little bit about before the podcast about how that is the low point that you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
So could you take us a little bit through? Hi, I'm so sorry, we're closed. What are you doing? We're doing a podcast here right now, but we close at 7 p.m. Well, I'm sorry, I'm a local comedian here.
Oh, they told me about you guys. Yeah.
Yep.
Fly or something?
No, I'm sorry, not right now.
Okay, put some flies in the window.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Can't look at the CDs real fast?
No, I'm sorry. We're closed.
Why don't you lock the door then?
Well, I don't have a key.
That is
It
so
happens
New Jersey.
all the time.
He said,
man.
can I get a CD?
It happens so much. I think it happened. Ari Finling did this podcast.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
He lives around here, right?
He does. Yeah, he lives
yeah.
around the block. Sometimes I see him at the park, which is fun too. So anyway, your low point, Jared.
Pandemic. It's hard because I was talking to my wife about this. Like, what a low point? She's like, you're privileged. I was like, I'm not privileged. I got low points in my life. I had low points in college, but my low point was in like pandemic, like pre-pandemic, because that's when I felt like, New York City is hard because you get to see everybody's lane.
Yes.
It's like being on a freaking, what's that race where everyone's like a marathon? You're in a marathon, but you get to see everyone lapping you. You get to see people who started before. You get to see everything. And I remember like before the pandemic, I was like, man, what do I got to do? Like how many auditions I got to do? I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. And then me and my wife were like, the wedding's supposed to happen. And she goes, oh, you think a pandemic's going to happen? I was like, don't worry. No pandemic's going to happen. We're good. Then Kobe died. And I was like, frick, Kobe Bryant died? And next you know, after that, the world just stops.
Yeah.
I remember the world stops. I remember we had to postpone our wedding. Then my wife was stuck in Belize because she went down to Belize to set up for the wedding.
What?
So she was quarantined in Belize for 11 months.
Oh, my God. Wait, so this is March 2020?
Yeah.
The world shuts down. She's in Belize.
She's in Belize because the wedding's in April.
A month before?
A month before. She went up to set up for the wedding. She's Belizean, so she went up there to set up for the wedding. And then everything shuts down. So she's in Belize. I'm here. I'm in New York City. But for like 3 months, we didn't do anything. It was like 3 months. Like the city was like completely shut down.
Right, yeah.
So I remember that was like the first time where I like sat back and I realized like, man, I just analyzed myself. Like I spent all this time, I was like, man, you're just resting right now. And I remember when the pandemic started opening, like it was dark times because I was like still wondering like, man, what is not clicking? What is not clicking? And I was just watching old content and videos. And then when Michael Che did that show back in like the Culture Lab outside, and then Caroline's opened again, I remember it was the lowest point of my comedy career, but it was the greatest point because it turned everything around. Because his producer asked me, like, hey, you want to do the show? I was like, yeah. So I showed up late just, because they probably may throw me the bullet. I showed up late on purpose so I can get a good spot. And then the worst thing was, and the best thing was, showing up late, he booked my friend Courtney, booked my friend Shanker, and whatever. But I realized they all talked about teaching. Courtney B used to be a teacher. Shanker used to be a high school teacher. Then Omar talked about his wife being a teacher. And by the time I got on stage, this lady yells out, "What is it, teacher night?" And I was like, wow. So then I realized, I was like, yeah, man. And I switched my set eventually. But I was like, man, I'm not unique as I thought I was.
Okay.
Because even though, I might be the only like legit like teacher in like comedy that does it for real. Like I wake up every morning and do it. But I realized, like, man, if 17 people can talk about, like, how many other teachers around the world are doing this? And I was like, yeah, there's so many other teachers. And at that moment, it all happened at Caroline's. The second time I was at a comic, and he was doing a show. He's a teacher comic, and he sold it out. And Bill Burr drops in. And Bill Burr was hidden, but it took him a while. I was like, what the freak is up with this crowd? This is Bill Burr. So I realized, like, oh, y'all don't understand comedy because you're here for this type of humor. Then I felt myself, I was like, man, am I a one-trick pony? Like, am I like, and that's not saying because, they make money. I'm proud of everything else. I said, but for me personally, I was like, there's more to me than just this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just like
And when you say more to you than just this, do you mean like from what you have to offer comedically?
Meaning like the students shouldn't be my punchline.
Like
I'm telling real stories, real life experiences because I do this every day.
Right.
But I was like, after that moment, I was like, I'm throwing all this away, everything away. I was like, I don't got my wife. My wife's we got married. We signed the papers. We got married before the pandemic. But she's out there, and I like on these parks. And I was like, I'm throwing all this away and starting out new again. And I was like, yo, who are you?
Wow.
Jared Waters, you from the South, you're a military brat, you've lived around the world. This is what you got to start writing about.
Yeah.
So then my whole act changed completely, which is scary. Doing something 7 years, you finally got it. And then like I was on this tour and I realized like, yo, these people aren't here to see me. They're here to see the brand. I could easily be replaced. And you start going through these emotions as a comic because you're looking at everybody. You're looking at this one, you're looking at this. Then you start analyzing who you are because the clubs are closed right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like even though Caroline's kind of open, like it's closed. So I was like, all right, in this pandemic, I know there's 4 shows a night, maybe 3, and every comedian's gonna be here, and every comic left.
Mm-hmm.
Every comic left, and I told all my friends from the South, I was like, we got one moment to make a name for ourselves. You got one moment to be this because it's turned into a swamp now. It's back to shows outside, back to shows outdoor. All you got to do is just show up.
Mm-hmm.
Half the battles are showing up, and you're going to get a spot.
Right.
So it was like, and it was crazy because it was a big bridge between the established comics and the younger comics. And I was like the bridge because no one did both yet except me. Because before the pandemic, I was slowly getting into the club, slowly getting spots.
Gotcha.
And I slowly knew the younger comics. And it was like a bridge, and I was like, this is perfect. Everything stopped.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know people are like dying and stuff, but in New York City, that was the best time for me because this low point turned into a high point because I was like, man, I got this time. Like I got into a club and I have to, you didn't have to bring that many people because the capacity is only 20 people.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
This is the perfect time to get in.
Yeah.
All the comics are focused here. So I knew this is the moment to just hit fast. And I just changed my set. Like, I need to be making people laugh within 2 minutes because people are depressed. They're finally getting out of their house, all these park shows. And I was like, I got nothing to lose.
So you really, and I just want to paint this picture because it's fascinating in the sense of you are physically, mentally, emotionally alone in that sense, right? I mean, obviously you have your wife in Belize, and as a comic this is my 4th year, right? So I can't imagine figuring out something that works and 7 years in and then having to completely change everything and re-explore yourself. It's scary in a way because now you have the tools, in other words, to construct a set, right? Obviously all the experience and stuff like that. But I mean, the material is completely different. It sounds like, right? Because it turned into being where I was like,
yes, I could be clean. I'm super clean. You know, I tell clean stories. But at the same time, I was like, man, anybody can take these jokes.
Yeah.
Anybody can.
Yeah.
Even though these are my experiences, even though I do it every day. But I was like, that when I went on this tour, I realized like, oh, I'm not anomaly. Everyone, there's like a whole bunch. There's someone in Texas that's a teacher comic. There's someone over here, and I was like, I don't want to be labeled as a teacher comic. I was like, I'm a comic.
Right.
Like I left everything to come up here, right? And I was like, that was just only 10 minutes of my set. I didn't do like everything about teaching, but like that first 10 minutes was holding me back from like opening up who I really am.
Wow.
So then I started writing jokes about, man, you remember being in Japan? I was like, oh, I did was the Netherlands. Oh, my dad being in the mill. I was like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. This occupation that I do, no, don't get me wrong, I'm great at teaching. You know, anything I do, I'm going to like try my best at it.
Sure.
And I learned that being at Disney World. I learned that they thought I was Haitian, so they put me in the back with all the Haitians to be in the kitchen.
Oh, God.
So I'm saying, so I was like in Disney jail, and
Disney
it
jail.
is what they call it. We call it Disney jail.
Oh no.
So I used to like tie the boats together. So when the ferry comes to Magic Kingdom, it's like a 15-minute ride because you're supposed to forget about all the stuff you just went through. You're walking. You ever notice that you're walking like 600 yards to a ferry because they want you to forget about parking, to forget about the stress of going into the park.
Oh,
so
wow.
when you go over there, you enter into a new world. So I was driving the ferry boats, and one time I forgot. I tied it, but not tight, so it started drifting off slowly.
Oh no.
And no one knew unless you've been on a boat before, but everything was cool. And this freaking snitch was on the boat, and he goes, man, this boat is rocking. I said, oh, my bad, I forgot to tie it up. I tied her. This snitch walked back and told the supervisor. And then when he told supervisor, they had to report it. And the number one rule is safety. Safety, courtesy, efficiency, show. So they put me in Disney, like I had to do a trial. They had to go review my case. And then I had to write a letter to the company. I was like, as a black trans gay man, I never felt accepted by my father. Now I'm not accepted again. Now I'm tying the boat. And they're like, there's a lot going on. I said everything because I wasn't ready to go back home. I was like, dog, I need, you know what I mean? I was like, I came here to like meet this, be with Dean Napolitano. That was like the guy I wanted to, and I was like, freak, I messed around tying his boats. And then for like a week, they took my Disney card away. I couldn't get to the parks. No. And then they go, hey, we're not going to fire you, but we're going to put you in Cosmic Rays, which was the busiest restaurant. To this day, the second busiest restaurant in the world.
Oh my
I'm talking
God.
about every day, freaking 3,000 burgers, sweat and everything. And they thought I was Haitian. So I was back to all the Haitians. But the crazy thing, how I said, when things are down for me, it turns around.
Yeah.
As I'm back in the kitchen, that's where I met my wife at, right there.
You met your wife in the kitchen?
Right in the kitchen.
Get
She
out.
was in the front. They put all the pretty girls in the front.
Sure.
And they put all the Caribbean people in the back. And they work for, it would be Haitians and Dominicans, and then when they didn't want anybody to talk, they would be Haitian Dominican, Haitian Dominican, Haitian Dominican, so no one spoke to each other. That's how they did it. So I'd be working this person, so like the Dominican, they're like, is he Dominican, is he Haitian? I said, look, man, I'm just here. So I remember it's to the point where my attitude was wrong because I was like, man, I'm freaking a college degree. I'm back here dropping fries and making burgers until this dude walks up. His name was Siddiqui, and he's like from Pakistan. And he walked up to me and grabbed me. He goes, right now it's bang bang, but you don't boom boom. So he sent me to the freezer and made me stack up the freezer. I was like, man, this guy ain't gonna be kicking me off the freaking line, making it seem like I'm slow. And this old Haitian guy, Fuji, he taught me he was touching me about fries. And he goes, you start putting the fries in there. And he goes, do you think you are better than me? I was like, no, I don't think. He's like, but you seem. I was like, no. He goes, life is like fries. He goes, he said, it's hot. I know you're tired. He said, but if you do it the right way, you'll get it done. He said, if you put your all into it, it'll become easy. And that's what teaching was. Like when I first started teaching, it was really hard until I realized, like, dog, if I just do my best at whatever I do, it's going to become easy. So then it became easy. It's like, oh, and I got this. It's in the bag, right?
Right.
So it happened like that. So I was at Disney World, and that's how it all happened. Straight up. And the fries. Sweating everything else. Yeah. Fuji. That's his name.
To make life, to boil it down to fries.
Fries. That's what an old Haitian man. And they were not politically correct back there because they were trying to be progressive, but they just got here from Haiti.
Right.
So we had two gay dudes fight. Like this dude and his boyfriend start fighting back there in the kitchen. So imagine it's Imagine it's prime time, 1:00, and everyone's coming to get food. And in Florida, it rains really hard, so everyone's in this bay. We got to drop 1,000 burgers, and these two dudes start fist fighting.
Oh my God!
Get off of me, you liar! So these Haitians break it up, and he got in trouble because this is what he said. He goes, what happened? He goes, he is mad at his wife, and he is mad. He goes, he is mad at his wife. I had to break up him and his wife from fighting. So then he got sent to HR because he called him a wife. He goes, I don't know what is the problem.
Oh my
His
God.
wife is mad. And he goes, that's my partner, not my wife. So he's like, so he had to go. So it was me and him sitting back there. And I was like, no, you have to say partner. He goes, his wife. I didn't know what to say.
Oh my God.
So that was like the funnest times. So not the funnest times, but it made me just sit there and I would just download all these comedy albums and I would just learn all this stuff. And I realized like, yo, in life, you just got to try. And whatever you do, it'd be crappy, but like you got to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And that's how I treat spots. It don't matter if it's a spot with 2 people, 6 people, 4 people, 8 people. I got to give you a show.
Yeah.
If you came to a show, I'm going to give you a show.
Yeah.
My wrestling coach told me when I was a senior, he goes, Jared, because there's these bad little brizzles out there, and he goes, Jared, we can end practice early because I know you want to go to this basketball game and hang out with these. You're a senior. I understand you want to party. He said, but why don't you give me 5 minutes to make yourself better? Why don't you all just take 5 minutes and make yourself better? He said 5 minutes to do something somebody else is doing. 5 minutes to make yourself a champion. And by the time I looked up, I was there wrestling for like an hour. But it was just like every night, even when I'm not on stage, I want to be around comedy. I want to be around meeting new people, listen like, oh, this is how their stories are. Because people is like the best thing we have on this planet, just meeting people.
Isn't it's just comes down to really connection. It's just
yeah,
really
yeah.
I mean the thing you said too about just that 5 minutes. I have a new thing now where it's just because it's hard. It's hard working all the time, doing the podcast, trying to post online, and I'm working on a solo show and stand up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to promise myself 15 minutes a day. I'm going to sit down and write stand-up. I'm going to look at my act, look at where it needs to improve. And every time I write for more than 15 minutes because you just get into it. And it's just so to that same point. It's
you gotta take that time for you, because if you don't spend time building your dreams, you're going to work your whole life fulfilling somebody else's or building somebody else's dream. And sometimes you notice that some people, not even comics, people in general. Like I work with people and they're just like, oh, I should do this. I was like, well, do it. What's stopping you? Yeah. Well, how do you do this? I said, Doc, I moved to New York City to change my life.
Yeah.
I as soon as I get off work, I become alive. Freak, yeah, let's do it. What? You can stay out all night? Yes, because I'm doing what I love, man.
Right.
So when, especially like in life, I think there's a lot of people in life, you can burn yourself out. But I tell people like, yo, get out and see the world, man. You'll get inspired when you see people. Yeah. You get inspired when you see something new. Trying new foods, trying new people. And I think if you're traveling, I travel by myself, but when you have a partner who just wants to travel, like my wife loves to travel, and her field is conservation and preservation, so she knows everything about artifacts, and I'm like, oh, let's have your own tour guide. Let's freaking do it.
That's cool. Yeah.
So I think like when those dark times, you got to find that little tunnel of light.
And where do you think you picked that up from? Because like for me, right, it took me a long time to learn that because I would sit in the darkness for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me a while to really be able to kind of go outside of myself, see where I'm at, and pull myself out of it. Was there like growing up, do you think like anything that happened maybe that taught you that, or like, yeah?
I think my mother told me the story, or my grandmother told me the story about my family not taking chances. Like me and my brother and my sister were all risk takers. But I remember my grandfather, this white, he's from the South, so this white man goes, Abraham, why don't you buy this land off of me? And my grandfather didn't want to do it because if he would have bought the land, they would have been it would have been hard times. But he eventually spent more money renting the land out than he would just buying the land out, and eventually he bought it. And everybody told him, like, if you would have just bought this land, it would have been like that. Then my dad had a chance to buy get a stock in Krispy Kremes. And my mom's like, you got to buy it now. And he goes, no, it's not Krispy Kremes, just a local North Carolina chain or whatever.
Right.
And then, boom, it blew up. And I just told myself, like, dog, I can't look at not saying my dad didn't. My dad took a risk and won the military. But saying, like, for me, I was like, I can't look my lady in the face. I can't look my kids in the face and say, yo, your dad didn't try. Your dad didn't go out there and lay it all down on the line. And even with sports, I was like, you don't want to have any regrets. no regrets. It's like, man. So I guess that light at the end of the tunnel for me is just knowing that you got to pour it out there because tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah, that's
I look at people who like family and friends that have passed away, and I was like, man, they were fulfilled to do so much more.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big one with me. I mean, because I stopped stand-up during the pandemic because I just kind of talked myself out of it. And there was a part of me, too, I was like, let me see if I can kind of live without doing this. And I've told the story on the podcast before, but I had a family friend who was my age, and he died in a motorcycle accident. And it was awful. And because we're the same age, and we were kind of, like mirrors of each other almost. And, I remember, too, he was so funny, and he was so sweet. And for his wake, I remember we actually all just went up and we did stories. And I remember I got up. I hadn't done stand-up or whatever, and I wasn't even trying to be funny. I told a real story, which is we were driving. He was in the passenger seat with me, and we were picking up my mom from work. And he rolled down the window, and he saw my mom, and he said, "Hey, Toots, how much for an hour?" And I was like, he's the only one that could get away with calling my mother a whore. And it was like, and like people laughed. And and kind of just being like, like you said, life is short. And I was like, maybe I'll try again. So it's, I guess that's another way that, finding that light in the dark.
Dog, laughter is a good, I think it says in the book, laughter is a good dose of medicine. Right. My best friend, his name is Shamar Howe. He died. He got killed when we were 25 or 20, I think 25 or 26.
Yeah.
Before I moved to New York. But I remember he was having a hard time adjusting from being a military brat to being back in the stateside.
Mm-hmm.
So he went military, drank, it crushed his hip, and he was doing that. But I remember we talked about everything. And I remember same experience. I went to his funeral, and his mom goes, "Jared, I want you and Emmanuel, that's my brother, to talk." So my brother's more serious. Then I wrote a set. 'Cause I remember when he would get locked up, he would always get locked up. And I would tell him all these Paul Mooney jokes. And he called me like locked up. And he goes, "Man, what is my son going to say as I'm locked up?" And I was like, "You be proud." I was like, Michael Jackson went to jail. And MLK went to jail. It's like this old Paul Mooney joke I would tell him. But I switched it at the end. I was like, what am I going to tell my son? I was like, tell your son you make the best license plates that the state has seen. And then it freaking hit. I had everybody killing. And that's when I realized, like, man, like comedy is to heal people, man. Yeah. And I think that the thing that me and you share this, like sometimes you got to get out them shadows. You know, like no one's going to know your talent unless you show it off to the world.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's so easy to hide behind, I think the best thing that happened in the pandemic was all the gatekeepers got removed.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone who's a star now built it on their own.
Yeah,
like it's a new way of just like if you think about the last 4 entities that built stand-up and built stars. There's SNL, there's Nick Cannon, there's Don't Tell, Kill Tony, and the last one is you. It's all on us now.
I know. And
freaking what's it in the Bible? It goes, Jesus and Peter I know, or Jesus and Paul I know, but who are you? That's what what are you? Like I know what they've done, but what have you done? Yeah. So my question is like, dang, what am I not doing to make myself? And it's hard. Like when you think a joke is crazy and you post it and you get 5 views, like freak, ah, this joke was great, freaking great. You get so freaking mad. Then you got to edit it again. Then you got like content. Then you don't want to feel everything else. And I was like, dog, this is the name of the game.
Yeah.
If this is what we got to do, play the game. I don't want to get left behind in the stands. I was like, well, we got to do it. Let's do it. And something will pop. And the greatest thing about New York City, I've seen it happen. I've seen a friend that had nothing go viral and his life changed.
That's nuts.
Seen a friend who was poor all of a sudden touch $600,000, make $100,000. So it's possible. So sometimes you got to get out of your head thinking, oh, dang, yeah. It's like it's in your head thinking like, it's not possible. Like, no, it is.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yeah.
You just got to be ready for it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a big one, too, is that, when that opportunity comes, Gary Gulman, who I love, says something I think is fantastic. It's so much better to be found 2 years too late than to be seen too early, which
Dog, that's the realest, dog. I'm glad I didn't get Just for Laughs before the pandemic. I'm glad I didn't get any of this stuff before the pandemic because when I look at my sets from 7 years ago, I was like, man, what was I doing?
Yeah.
When I look at my college sets, holy yeah, what the freak was I saying? Oh my gosh, I was dancing on stage. It took me 2 minutes to start dancing on stage, all this other stuff, and I was like, man. But I think that sometimes as comedians we take comedy too seriously.
So
but that's
true.
why I'm like, I'll never make comedy like my wife. Even though it is my wife, I do have a wife, so I always make sure like we go vacation or a place there is no comedy, and we just kick it and we just chill.
Yeah, and there's Grace Lobo, who's a wonderful comedian, said my favorite thing. We were actually coming home from a train, and I was down. I was like, I'm trying to get in all these clubs. It's not working out. And she goes, stop having goals for a little bit. She goes, you just do it for a little bit and just try to enjoy. And honestly, I've been writing more than I ever have. I've been going up more. That was like the best for me. That was like the best advice.
And just you got to realize since, like I said, since there's so many lanes in New York City, you might be looking at someone else's going somewhere thinking that's the club you want to get in. And when you get in that club, you don't realize it's a lot of politics in this club.
Right.
You got to realize this person might be doing you got to deal with the club drama.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, if you build it, they will come.
Yes.
You got a show in a freaking bookstore that packs out, and you got people who love you. That's better than anything, and you control everything.
Yeah.
You don't got to worry about emailing the booker. You're the booker.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people forget, like, you can build yourself up, There's a lot of people, Master Peak, build it out the trunk.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that a lot. I'm very fortunate just with, like, finding this place. And the other thing is, too, like, I'm just trying to meet. We talked about connection before, right? I mean, that's the best part of comedy is the people, I think. Because you get people from all walks of life. We talked about, like, different perspectives, right? It's literally people from all walks of life.
Dude, I met my editor in a crowd.
Really?
At a show, yeah. I was like, what language do you speak? She kept speaking all these languages, and I was like, can I guess your country? And I guessed it. And I was like, what? I was like, really? I was like, hey, what do you do for work? She goes, I'm an editor. I was like, editor what? You edit videos? I was like, can you edit this? And then she goes, yeah. And I was like, in your country? I was like, all right, good. I'm going to send you some video. You edit it, see what we did. And I was like, wow, imagine if I didn't talk to that person.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And it's just like people want to people come to, some people don't come for bad times, but you're making somebody's day better.
Yeah.
That's what we all got into it for. I was like, I can't wait till we make the big money so you can. I might change in 2 years. And when this special drops from Don't Tell, I might change. But right now, you got a chance to make people's day better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to realize that that there's always a light somewhere.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
so, like, something I struck. Right, talking 50 minutes. You're like, I'm not. No.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think I've struggled with, and I think some other comics have too, is that we tie being a comedian into the value of our identity. Did you ever, and like our value as a human being? So when it's not going well, I think we get down on ourselves a lot. Have you like ever experienced anything like that?
Shoot, yeah, man. I remember. I think in Tampa when I was just down there because I was like, man, how do I, you're just doing the same thing over and over. You're hanging out at clubs, and we start beating the road, and I just realized there was a ceiling. Like I hit the ceiling where I realized that this guy, Bobby Kelly was talking to me in the car, and he goes, what do you want to do, kid? And I was like, I'm moving to New York. He goes, when? I said, I'm about to move in August. He goes, you should move when you're that guy. And I was like, this guy right here. And I was like, I am that guy.
Oh.
And then he was just like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. So then I told the club owner. And the club owner, his name is Bobby Jewell. He's smoking a cigarette like this. Old school gun was like blowing it. He goes, so kid, you want to go to New York, huh? And he's old school, like an old football coach, meaning that I grew up playing sports. So I know when an old man's effing with you, I know people want to see what you're made of.
Yeah.
So he would do that to a lot of comics, and comics who weren't used to that, they'd be crying. He'd be making fun of them and stuff.
Sure.
And it's hilarious to me because I know him. And we got him at the end of his tenure, so he was like more gentler. He's like turning to like an old football coach. So he goes, I don't think you're ready for New York City. I don't think you're ready for this. I think you should wait a couple years. And I was like, I don't care if you don't think I'm ready. I'm ready. And he goes, I can bet on a dog who bets on himself. That's when you got to realize, like, dog, no one's going to tell you when to stop doing open mics. No one's going to tell you when to start producing. No one's going to tell you when to stop doing anything.
Yeah.
You got to let yourself know. You got to believe in yourself and realize, like, oh, this is the vision that I am. It's like, what was it? What's that spray? Is it 409? 409. Yeah.
Yeah.
He sprayed it 408 times. Like, imagine if he stopped. Imagine if he stopped. Imagine if that was the one where he's like, yo, I'm freaking done. Imagine if it's like, it's easy to quit.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so easy to quit. Dog, when I was walking on the football team, and the best thing about what college football taught me, like, I only walked on, then I walked right off. But what it taught me was knowing that a lot of people are going to take themselves out. So before, like, my cousin, he played in the NFL. His name is Richard Kuntz. And I was like, yo, I'm going to walk on for the football team. He goes, yeah. So he trained me for like a month before. So I'm talking about, he's like, we're picking up sleds, running around, freaking beating me, all this other stuff. So when I got out there, I was like prepared. And within the first day, there was 350 of us trying out. By the first day, it went down to 60.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, my God.
60. I'm talking about people, you had to quit yourself. People are just walking off. Just get off the field. You can't hack it, get off the field. Quit. Done.
Yeah.
And I remember we got down to like the last 60, then it got down like 30 people, then it got down to, we all went to like the different positions. And this dude named Rick Smith, I remember I was just tired, fell asleep in the meeting. He goes, Rivers, wake up. I was like, oh. So, and then he goes, Rivers, and then he goes, Waters. I was like, creek, ocean, lake, whatever, any body of water, I'm good. And everyone started laughing in that meeting room. Everyone started laughing. And then, yo, Waters is funny, so I would just make people laugh. He go, first team, get out there. And I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, sorry. I thought you said eighth team. Second team. I was like, oh. And then he goes, Waters, that Waters is crazy, man. So, like, as a time, I'm, like, building that. And I remember he goes, hey, no practice for you walk-ons, no practice. You don't have to come today. And I left something, and I went to go to practice anyways. And everybody was there practicing. And he looked at me. He goes, why don't you come today? And I was like, oh, you said no practice? He goes, yeah. He said, but if you wanted, you would always come. So even when it isn't required, you got to require yourself to come.
Yeah.
And he taught me like a valuable lesson. So when it was all said and done, and it was all said and done, he goes, hey, you got to do 12 hours. I was like, I'm not doing 12 hours. And as I realized, he's like, yeah, you can walk back on the fall. You want to walk on the fall? I say, you got a spot in the fall. And I was like, Then I just realized it was done for me. Like, I just wanted to prove to myself I can do it.
Yeah.
That I can hang. Like, what I did in high school wasn't a fluke, that I really belonged here. But it made me understand comedy. It made me understand, like, a lot of people in New York City are redshirt freshmen, meaning that you were recruited from a different city and you got these credits, and you people are invested into you to be in this club. I'm going to give you these spots because I'm invested in you to do something.
Right.
You got management. You got an agent. Second, people, we call them JUCO players, people who transfer from different schools. Those are the people who come here that did all these festivals. So when you come here, you hit the ground running. And the last group of people are walk-ons. People from these small towns or wherever you're from in Long Island, Mississippi, wherever you came here to prove yourself, to realize that you belong here. So when I book comics or whenever, I want to walk on. I want someone who's trying to prove they belong here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to bomb on your show because it's in a park or it's in a bookshelf or because it's not a club. I'm going to give you my seed material. No, I'm going to make sure that this spot gets the next spot. Like, a rep means so much. So I remember just seeing a cornerback going like, I only got 3 reps today, and he just being upset. And I was like, oh, that dude got 2 reps. I was like, oh, these reps mean something. Oh, you need that representation. You need that repetition or whatever. You need that rep. So for me, I just look at myself like meaning that, like, okay, we're walk-ons. Me and you are walk-ons. Maybe we don't got the credits right now. Maybe we don't got that, but our credit is ourself. Like, you're walking on with your credit.
Yeah.
Like, when you leave that green room, like, who was that guy? What was his name again?
Yeah.
Jay Jordan taught me this. We're walking the street, and he goes, there's 2 phrases you hear from a crowd when you're not noticed. It's who is that guy when you're first on stage, because they don't know who you are. So they're trying to, who is this guy? And after you become funny, they go, who was that guy?
Wow.
How do I find that guy?
Yeah.
That's what Jay Jordan told me. I was like, what a good analogy of just stand-up. He goes, when you get on stage, they're trying to wonder because they're looking for celebrities. So they're wondering, like, who is this guy that's on stage? Then after you start killing, they'll, who is this guy? Yo, who was that guy I got to follow?
Yeah.
So I think of that. That was like the coldest gem. We're just walking, and he gave me that. And I was like, wow, that's how I live my life, to be like, I know y'all don't know me, but I want you to understand why when I leave this stage, you met somebody.
Yeah.
And, like, I got to find out, how do I follow this guy? He made me laugh. How do I get in contact? Like, is that?
That is such a gift.
Jay Jordan, get him out here.
Wow. I mean, the other thing is, too, it brings it back to building it up yourself. And in other words, instead of putting your energy out trying to attract stuff, build something inward and attract people to you. I mean, you hear all the time. I think even Eddie Murphy said it. Or no, maybe it's Chris Rock. When you kill, people will always remember you. I remember I didn't know who Tim Dillon was, and I went to some random show, and to what we're talking about, he absolutely murdered. My stomach hurt, and that's when I started, wondering who this guy was. So, this is gold. It's really just...
Or just whatever you do in life. You got like fries. You got to try your best.
It's fries.
You got to try your best. It may be crappy in the beginning. It may be hot at the open mics. It may be, but it's eventually you're getting better.
Yeah.
You're learning. And once you learn, something can happen. But I think that so many comics have a problem with influencers and they become influencers. I said, dog, it don't matter what anybody does. Like, what makes you stand out?
Yeah.
Your journey has nothing to do with nobody else's. And your success is not tied to anybody's successes. If you don't win, it's on you now.
Yeah.
We can't say the industry doesn't want me because you can put the clips out yourself.
That's the, yeah.
And when you get 6 views, delete it, repost it again, and see if something can happen. I've been there. Freak! I reposted like, oh, we got some motion, we got some traction. But yeah, man, I'll leave you with this, man. My aunt, her name is Cynthia. She told me the story. I told my buddies about this, about David and Goliath. It's in your book as well. The story about David and Goliath. A lot of people don't know. He knew he was going to kill Goliath, right? But the question is, why did he bring 5 stones? That's what she asked me. Like, if he knew he was going to kill him with 1, why did he bring 5 stones? And she said the reason why he brought 5 stones because he was prepared to kill him and kill every other giant that was out there. Because there were more giants besides Goliath. And the thing is, he didn't have to kill anymore because after he slayed Goliath, everybody started slaying giants. So just in life, don't realize the battle that you're fighting is not just for you, it's for someone else to get inspired.
Wow.
So don't just think you're fighting this battle alone, because when you slay this giant, someone's watching you. Someone's watching and be like, yo, Jared did 1,000 spots. I can do 1,000 spots. Yo, I saw someone else do. I was like, oh, if they could, let me see if I can knock out 900. Oh, I was like, I might not have this credit or whatever. I was like, but I'm going to make it my own credit.
Wow.
I'm going to credit myself for being a hard worker. I'm going to credit myself for always being like this until they realize someone's going to be like, what about Jared? What about him?
Yeah.
So that's how I look at myself. The battle that you're fighting might not be for you, might be for the people behind you, might be for the people beside you, but you got to fight it. You got to try.
Has anyone, I'm just trying to take a moment to take this all in because it's so powerful to me. Has anyone ever come up to you and said, has anyone told you that you've inspired him in that way?
Yeah, I see when people count spots, like, yo, Jared, I told her, yo, count the spots that you do, and she'd be like, look at the end of the year and be proud of yourself. So I was like, yo, I did 500, yo, congratulations. So it's just like some people tell me that, and I was like, I'm not doing it to show off what I'm doing.
No, yeah.
I'm just doing yo, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to just get up as much as I can, because when opportunities happen, you got to be ready for it, dog. Like when I filmed my Don't Tell, I did it twice. The first one I was ready for, but I it's like being at one of those things where sometimes your character speaks for you. So meaning that I did it and I was cool with it. I was like, yeah, it was cool. I mean, it's like when you see it, just shows a comic turning a crowd and getting them on your side. But the CEO hits me and goes, Jared, I know you can do a whole lot better than that. Let's film it again.
That's awesome.
Dog, I think I called him the N-word in the email. I was like, you a real nigga. Remember that. I think my wife told me not to write that, but I'm pretty sure I wrote close to that. But just knowing that your character speaks for yourself, knowing that, imagine if he didn't know me. Imagine if he didn't know what I did. It's like, this is what you're capable of. And just knowing, I know you can do better. I was like, oh, freak you. Oh, man, you don't even know. So when I went out to Ohio, I said, F the camo vest. I'm going camoed out for real. I put I'm hunting down a buck the way I went out there. So I'm like, man. And it's not it's like, I got to stop. The thing is doubt. It's so easy to have doubt inside your head.
Yeah.
Where you're like, man, oh, you finally get your Don't Tell. And people are like, oh, what if it doesn't go viral? I was like, stop thinking like that. You got it.
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
Right.
Everything has been predetermined already. You know, God gave us free will. So there's a lot of things we don't do because it's in our head, it's doubt. But once you get outside, it's like, yo, I freaking got a goal accomplished. I'm about to drop a special. I'm excited.
When does the special come out? We'll plug it.
Shoot out, and I just got it now.
Oh, you just saw? Okay.
But I just saw it. But I'm just excited that I have it. And it's a fear that I have a little bit. Like, man, this is what you ready for your life to be changed?
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, I'm ready, but at the same time, I'm thankful for, like, the job that I have. I'm thankful that they work with me. I'm thankful that they're like, hey, you got a show? Go ahead and do a show. Hey, I'm thankful that the work ethic that they showed, realized, like, yo, Jared's going to come and do his job. Jared might be like this, but he's chasing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I that's what I really think. Like, I was sitting with all my boys, and this is how crazy it was. When I filmed my special in Ohio, my boys, I went to the Netherlands, high school in the Netherlands came. My boy Sasha and my boy Mills came.
That's awesome. That's cool.
And they live in Ohio. And we're sitting there. He was like, man. We used to rap, you know. I mean, every black person rap. We rapped in. We would make these mixtapes in high school. We make all these distracted people in high school. And in 2008, or I forgot what year it was, we sat down and on a rap album. Goes, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I talked about stand up. I talked about comedy. My boy goes, I see myself in the NFL. He didn't make the NFL. But I was saying everything that I said I would do, I'm doing still to this day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, and I like my high school quote, like, where do you see? I was 17, and it was just like, where do you see yourself? I was like, a stand up comic, a legend, and a father. Those are the three things I wrote down.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm still pulling out. Come on now. My lady's on her period right now. Come on now. No baby. Not a father. I'm not a legend yet, but as a stand-up comic, and that's what they wrote in the paper. Like, when I won my wrestling championship, they go, Jared Waters, who wants to be a stand-up comedian, he won gold.
Jared, I hope it means something to you, man. But when I look at who I look up to, it's you, man. It's Liz Glazer. It's really, you guys keep me inspired, and just thank you so much for everything you do.
Shout out to Liz. That's my dog, too.
She did this podcast, too. She's incredible.
Freaking Tonight Show.
Yeah, she just did. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, just a nice dog. Something, I know we got to go, but something about the pandemic, even after the pandemic, made people very nice.
Yes.
And the comics who came out of that are just nice people.
Yeah.
So even though we're back in the rat race, it's just like there's a bond that you have with people who are nice.
Yeah.
Where you know when you go to a place, they're not going to make you feel like outcasted or anything else.
Totally. Because this world we're in is so harsh.
Yeah, man.
And I just think, you're such a light in it, and I hope, you clearly know that, but to me, man.
Imagine if Eddie Murphy was mean to Chris Rock. You found him stacking chairs.
It's unbelievable.
Stacking chairs at a comedy club. Like, you don't know who's watching.
That's what I'm saying.
What does it say? Be careful of who you entertain, because there might be angels among us.
Dude, I love it so much. Jared, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find, what camera am I looking at?
This one here. You can do this one.
You can find me every Wednesday in Astoria Park at 7:15. If you're on Instagram, I didn't even know these pipes. What?
Dude, they've been popping the whole episode, dude.
What? I'm just kidding. Yeah. If you're on Instagram, it's Mr. Waters, Mr. Waters. If you see a black dude on the horse, that's me. TikTok, Mr. Waters, Mr. Waters. If you see a black dude on the horse, that's me. Facebook, Jared Waters. YouTube, whatever you want, Mr. Waters. My special's dropping soon. But thank you to this young man right here. Even though he says he's an inspiration, no, you're inspiration to me. You building this on your own, dog. Having this place packed out, coming to Jersey. If you ever get any time, when's the next time y'all doing a show?
We're doing it in the fall. We're going to,
catch him in the fall. I'll be here. Let me know.
Dude, thank you so much, man.
You stay black, all right?
Here's to hoping we left you guys a little higher. And we're good, man. Thank you so much, man. Dude, I hope you had a good time.